But let's shift it over to the defensive side of the ball. Another question from Barthanga Lang was asking basically, is our defensive line improved? And to add on to that, Flowers of the Way 6930 also asked about Mike Green's potential impact. So Mike Green is being added to this defensive line, so they coincide with each other. But other than that, this defensive line is very similar, other than us signing John Jenkins at defensive tackle, or he's our nose tackle, really. Yeah. We lost Michael Pierce. We added Jenkins. Is our D-line improved because they're, getting better with youth, or is it going to be a very similar output of defensive line ability this year?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I feel like it's going to be a little bit of similarity. I did hear Justin Madubuike put on a little bit more weight, too, just to be able to fight off the double teams. I want guys to sometimes realize, always putting on the weight is not always the answer. If you're still agile, if you're still strong, the only person that I've seen, I don't know how much body fat percentage he got, but Aaron Donald, I don't know how much his weight stayed consistent when he played. I'm gonna put it like that. His weight stayed consistent when he played, and he also was a force to be reckoned with. He used his hands. He was a technician. So, I'm not always in so much of a agreement of putting on the weight. If you know your craft, if you know your technique, you know how to outwork the next man in front of you. I'll never forget, seeing Khalil Mack bench press a left tackle when he was still a Chicago Bear. I forgot what team he was playing against, but to be able to do that with one hand, it was insane. So, still, when it comes to that, that weight and, to clog the holes up and do things differently, I'm 50-50 about that. If you know how to make it work for yourself, by all means, go ahead, do what you do. But to say it has improved, I give it a B+. I give it a B+. You got Madubuike. I like Christian Wilkins. I still would love to, try to land Jadeveon Clowney just to bring back, that vet, because we don't know how much production we're going to get out of Adisa Isaac this year. We don't know how much production we're going to get out of David Ojabo in regards of his health. I'm not really worried about Madubuike. Madubuike has been a consistent guy. He's a force to be reckoned with in that middle. I'm looking forward to see Tavius Robinson continue to take that next step in his career, because he produced. He showed what he can do working on the outside and in the middle. Was a Virginia Tech guy, was he undrafted or was he drafted?
That would be Fub. And yes, he was drafted. Aeneas Peebles, but everybody calls him Fub, which is a great nickname. So I already know he's going to be a stud. So yes, we did draft him day 3.
Okay. All right, but so Fub, I know he already coming in, hungry, he's ready, but unfortunately, I know we did a recording earlier, a week ago, where we was questioning, are we worried about Mike Green? And the crazy thing is, I believe the day McConnell's going to post it, Mike Green signed his contract. It was a beautiful blessing in disguise. Either way, we loved it, and we knew he was going to be a part of this team. I truly feel like, seeing Mike Green, if he flashes early. Oh, I know I'm getting ahead of myself. Then they're not going to be mad or sad if Adafi walks, if they let him walk out the gym this year. Well, when we go to the Super Bowl and win it. So I feel like we have a lot of potential in these young guys, and we do have a good group of savvy vets. Like on both sides of the ball, especially defense, we don't talk about it enough. This defensive side of the ball, we have a good group of young and old vets where these guys feed off of energy, and the vets are there like, yeah, okay, young buck, I like what you're doing. It's almost like a competition. We talk. I know we on the D line, but I just want to talk a little bit about our linebackers. Roquan talks about how Trenton Simpson has grown, how they worked out in the offseason, and he also talks about Buchanan. When a vet sees potential in you, he's going to take you under their wing. And he also, he's going to show you the game of how to succeed. We all see all the basketball podcasts now. How shout out to shout out to Jeff Teague and his group, man. Always talking about, I forgot what vet, came to Atlanta when Jordan Crawford finally got traded, and the vet found him like, yo, listen, you're gonna be next. You need to come in and get this work in. And Jeff was like, nah, forget you, man. And the vet kept on finding him. And eventually he's like, all right, I'm gonna come work out with you in the morning. And those early morning workouts end up paying off when he got on the court. So, we, from the outside looking in, we have a team that doesn't mind building up these young guys because they know they are the future for this Ravens organization. So when it comes to the defensive line, I give it a B plus. I'm looking forward to see, how these guys fare out when training camp really gets under gear, and also how these games look, these preseason games look, and how well tuned these guys are. Because even though Jadeveon Clowney has not signed with anybody, and I believe his name is Christian Wilkins. Yes, he got released by the Raiders. Those are some names that we can keep some eyes out on to possibly improve that interior and also outside. So, as far as that defensive line, if I had to give it a grade right now, it would be a B plus.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because I'm going to go out on record and say I highly doubt Kyle Van Noy gets another 10 sack season. I think it was lightning in a bottle. I don't mind him being on the team. I don't mind him as a pass rusher, but if I'm being realistic, my thought process is 5, maybe 6 sacks, and I'm happy with Kyle Van Noy's production, meaning we're going to need production as pass rushers from somewhere else. Now, I think part of that will be from Odafe Oweh. I think part of that will be from Madubuike, because I think Madubuike was getting so many double teams last year. He's one of the top 5 most double teamed defensive linemen in the NFL. They're going to have to start, allowing him in one-on-one coverage, or else Kyle Van Noy is going to have another season like that. But I think it's just the secondary is going to help a lot, because teams last year, let's be realistic, they saw 21 and they said, that's barbecue chicken, right? Like Urban Dictionary, look it up. Like, they know exactly where to go with the football if they're getting pressure, because he wasn't turning his head. All right. So now we at least have playmakers everywhere on the defense. You can't just make these blind throws. You can't just target one player on this defense, or at least right now, knock on wood, you can't do that. I almost just knocked over my dresser with my Stanford football. That would have been bad. But overall, you're going to have to sit in the pocket. You're going to have to make good throws. Who's going to be the guy that steps up? Is it Tavius Robinson, the abominable snowman? I hope so. He absolutely balled out in the postseason game against the Buffalo Bills. He was really the only defensive lineman that really stood out in that game. Multiple plays on Josh Allen as a ball carrier, good pass rush, good run fits, like really played well in that game. I hope he can step up next year. At least, when we drafted him out of Ole Miss, the thought process was, if nothing else, this guy can stop the run. But I think I was starting to see a little bit of pass rush repertoire. I'd like to see that a little bit more. But someone that I'm really looking forward to see is Adisa Isaac, because we really liked what he did in college. He dealt with injuries last year. So did obviously David Ojabo. We're just hoping for one of them to stay healthy. Let's see one of them play this year. One of them get opportunities, because we didn't even really see Adisa Isaac in the preseason last year because of injuries. And I really want to see him get his opportunity. But the problem is with Mike Green is we're not going to know until we see him. Pass rusher and offensive line, you don't know at practice. You don't know. We don't even have pads on. Like, we don't know how good these guys are. You can look as good as you want in the bag drill, but that doesn't tell me if you can actually play football. We've seen him dominate at Marshall. Let's see him in the preseason. He doesn't have to have a 5-sack game in the preseason, right? Get one pass rush win. And that's honestly more successful than most of our previous pass rush draft picks. Like, let's be honest. It took them a long time to be successful. Let's see Fub in the preseason. How does he look as a depth piece on that defensive line? We need to see them on the football field before we make these judgments. But I'll say this, I don't think our defensive line is worse. So last year, our defensive line was fine. I don't think it was great. I don't think it was bad. It was fine. If nothing else, we have the best secondary in the NFL and a fine defensive line. Best case scenario, we have the best secondary in the NFL and a good defensive line. I don't have ridiculous expectations, right? We don't have Micah Parsons. We don't have TJ Watt. We don't have Myles Garrett, right? We're not going to have a 20 sack player. That's okay. The Ravens led the NFL in sacks without having a 20 sack player. And people didn't look at that defensive line as being the best D line in football. It was just their secondary was locking down. They were blitzing a lot. They were able to get pressure, but it wasn't because their D line was just stupid OP, right? They're not the Philadelphia Eagles. It was just like, hey, we've got a plethora of decent players that can all get after the quarterback. And I see the potential to do that again this year. I see potential for the Ravens to get, 40, 45 sacks maybe this year. That doesn't mean they will, right? We got to see. Like, put on the pads, show us what you can do, and then we'll find out how much better you really are. And hopefully Odafe Oweh is a 15-sack guy, but, that's a lot of hope in that statement. There's probably more hope than possibility in that statement, but I'll still ride with it. Hope.
Let us see it.